Welcome in, everyone. I hope you are doing well wherever you are watching this from. We have an important topic to talk about today, and that is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth drawing a line in the sand when it comes to double standards, wokeness, and quite frankly, simply common sense. Big win for America, big win for logic and reason. We're going to get into all that and much more as always. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Comment with your thoughts below. As you can see, we're still rocking the background while I'm out of my home after it was destroyed. We'll get back there eventually. Appreciate all the thoughts and comments you guys have left. We're doing fine. Don't worry about it. It's not fun, but we're going to push through. So today's topic is very, very simple, and that is the topic of double standards in the United States military, specifically double standards when it comes to physical fitness, meeting the standards, meeting the physical standards. For a long, long time, the United States military has had different physical standards for women than the physical standards for men. Obviously, the male standards have been higher, the female standards have been lower. Why is that? Well, the obvious reason for the logic behind that decision, even though having different standards, in my opinion, has always been the wrong decision, is that men are simply bigger, stronger, faster. Thus, the standards for men are going to be higher than the standards for women. The problem with that is bombs and bullets don't discriminate on the battlefield, as we all know. Whether you're a male who's 6'5", 240 pounds and in tip-top shape, or you're a female who's 5'3", bullets kill everyone the same, bombs kill everyone the same. That's why it's never made sense to me and many others why you would ever allow two different sets of physical standards. You can either do the job or you can't do the job. If you can do the job, then you've earned the right to do it. If you can't do the job, male or female, you have no business being there. Same thing goes for a lot of other businesses. Well, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is rectifying this issue. He's fixing the problem. And let's get into right now what he's doing to eliminate these double standards in the military. So Pete Hegseth, obviously the Secretary of Defense in the second administration of President Donald Trump, has made it clear that a goal of his is to get the military focused on one thing and one thing only: confronting America's enemies, crushing those who wish to harm us on the battlefield, and making sure America's military remains the greatest fighting force on the planet. One of the things Pete Hegseth did, he announced this March 31st. This is being recorded April 1st, 2025. No, this is not an April Fool's joke. He took to X in a now viral tweet where he stated the following, and I'm going to throw this up on the screen right here for all of you. Different physical standards for men and women in the U.S. military have existed for a long time, but there were also combat roles that were male only. Then under Obama, all combat roles were open to men and women, but different physical standards for men and women remain. Today at Department of Defense, we fixed this. All combat roles are open to men and women, but they must all meet the same high standard. No standards will be lowered, and all combat roles will have only sex-neutral standards, common sense. And that's exactly what it is. It is common sense. Like I just said, bombs and bullets do not discriminate when they get fired or dropped. When that projectile leaves the end of an AK-47 barrel and it's coming at the United States service members, that bullet doesn't know, nor does it care what your physical attributes are. It'll take you all out the same. When a bomb gets dropped from a plane, it's not thinking about are you male or female. It's just thinking about putting ordnances on the ground and blowing things up. So the idea that we should have two separate sets of standards is frankly ridiculous. It was ridiculous when it was implemented. It remained ridiculous in practice for all the years it was allowed to continue. And the fact of the matter is Pete Hegseth is doing 100% the right thing by coming in and saying, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to have one set of standards for men and women. We're not going to discriminate. And if you can meet the standards, you're going to be able to go into the roles you want to go into. If you cannot meet the standards, then you simply will not be allowed to. There's no DEI, there's no wokeness, there is no patting people on the back and pushing them through. That's not how you win. How you win is by making sure the best people possible are in whatever roles might be necessary. And in order to do that, you have to have one standard. And the standard should be incredibly difficult. This is a life and death matter, obviously. And when you're dealing with life and death, you don't have room for favors, DEI, any of that nonsense. You simply cannot tolerate it. So what Pete Hegseth has done here is he says, look, these are the roles that are open. These are the jobs that are open. And if you want one of these jobs, you have to meet the physical standard. End of story. Cut and dry. Male or female, this is the physical standard. We're not going to have two different standards. We're going to have one standard. And if you can meet it, you're going to be in. If you can't meet it, you're going to be out. It's just that simple. And I also want to note, and we're going to get into this right now, that there are people who seem to have a little bit of a misconception about what women are capable of doing in the military at the highest level. So let's discuss that right now. There seems to be a certain group or some people who feel that there can never be women in any elite role in the military. They believe there's never even been women in the elite roles in the military. But that's just simply not true. And we know that's not true because the Army, after years and years of whispers about women in Delta Force, not as operators, but in various other roles that they can serve, the military came out, I believe it was in December or November of 2024, and released photos of women who are members of Delta Force, also known as CAG or the unit. We also have female members that serve in a variety of other tip-of-the-spear units. I'm not going to get into all of that here because it's not really important, nor is it something that we really need to pull back the curtain on that much. But the point of the matter is this. Women have been in those units, tier 1 units, tip-of-the-spear units, doing a variety of different roles for a very, very, very long time. We're talking decades. Decades before Trump, decades before Obama, decades before Joe Biden was president. Women have served in those roles doing critical jobs. I will tell you this as well. A former SEAL Team 6 member released a video about women serving in Tier 1 units. The video, unfortunately, is no longer up. It's unclear why he took it down. I'm not going to say who it was because the video is taken down, where he laid out an argument for how women end up in Tier 1 roles. And pretty much made the point that while there might never be a female Navy SEAL if the standards stay high, which of course they should, there are other ways for women to get into Tier 1 units going through a very rigorous selection process for the jobs they need to do. We also know that there was a female member of Delta Force that was in Bosnia in the 1990s. We know from photos that they've been in Syria. This is not new information to those of you who watch the channel, see the interviews. And I've always found it a little interesting that people who've never met these women or have never met anyone in Delta Force, never met anyone in SEAL Team 6, never met anyone in an elite intelligence unit, they have become convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that these women could not possibly exist. And that is quite frankly just not true. These women do exist. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny number of them. We're talking about a very tiny handful of women that are able to get to the Tier 1 level. But and I'm not talking about CSTs. I'm not talking about cultural support teams, which is what a lot of people point to when you hear that. It's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about people that are, at that next level, if you will. And the guys who serve with them have nothing but high respect, high praise, and they go through a very, very tough selection process because they're going to a specialized unit. And there is no DEI or wokeness in specialized units. Those units exist to take out the enemies of America. End of story. End of story. And so if they've been able to have that with very high units, it can work the way down, which is what Hegseth is doing. Does this mean you're going to see women in the Army Rangers? Absolutely, almost certainly not. Does this mean you're going to see women in the Navy SEALs in a traditional SEAL role in the white side teams, as they would call them? Again, no. But, are there women very capable of doing incredible things out there? The answer to that is yes. But what I will tell you is they meet standards that are insanely high for their job. They're not pushed through with lower standards. They either do the job or they don't. End of story. So two things can be true at once. We need the highest standards possible, which is what Pete Hegseth is getting back to. And there have been for years a small group of very elite women serving in roles the public, quite frankly, doesn't know anything about. Don't take my word for it. There's members of the unit who have talked about it. There's members of SEAL Team 6 who have talked about it. And they're the guys who actually serve with them. So it's important to understand all of it, look at the full picture, and make your assessment there. I personally like the move from Pete Hegseth. I think it's a good decision, but I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Pete Hegseth's decision. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all next time.